In this video, we're going to take a look at solving the three problems that were given as practice problems in class. Problem number 1, we have some number p minus 5 is equal to negative 2. I'm just going to rewrite my equation here. I want to get my variable p by itself. The opposite of subtracting 5 is adding 5. So I'm going to add 5 on both sides of the equation. Negative 5 and positive 5 cancel out. Negative 2 plus 5. So imagine starting at negative 2 on the number line and hopping 5 places to the right. You're going to end up at 3. So p equals 3. Now I'm going to do my check. So when I do my check, I'm going to start by writing my original equation, which is p minus 5 equals negative 2. I think that my p value is 3, so I'm going to substitute in 3 in place of p. And then I'm going to ask myself, what is 3 take away 5? Notice I'm taking away more than what I have here, which is going to push me into the negatives. How far into the negatives? Well, it's going to be 2 into the negatives. 3 minus 5 would be negative 2. So it looks like my check worked out right there. Next problem, I have w plus 13 and 2/10 equals 10 and 4/10. The opposite or inverse of adding 13.2, the opposite would be taking away or subtracting 13.2. The positive and the negative 13.2s are going to cancel out. All I'm left with is w on the left. This right here I have to be very careful with. So I have 10.4 minus 13.2. 10.4 take away 13.2. I can also think of this, if it helps, I can think of this as 10.4 plus negative 13.2. And when I think of it this way, I can think, okay, well, I'm 13.2 into the negatives right here. I'm going to add 10.4 to that. So notice that I am more into the negative here. I'm not adding enough to push me into the positives if I'm thinking with my number line right here. Another way to think of this too is notice that, this piece here is positive. This piece here is negative. So we have different signs, and when we're adding with different signs, we actually want to subtract 13.2 minus 10.4. And we want to make sure that our answer has the sign of which of these has the larger absolute value. So the absolute value of negative 13.2 is 13.2, which is larger than this 10.4. So I know my answer is going to be negative right here. All right, so to do this subtraction, I got to do a little bit of borrowing here. 12 take away 4 would be 8. Drop my decimal straight down. 2 minus 0 is 2. So I have negative 2.8. So I think my W is negative 2.8. One more thing here, with this original, I didn't necessarily need to write plus a negative. I can look at this and I can see, okay, so this is positive. I'm taking away 13.2, so I can think of that as negative. And as soon as I see that those signs are different, I know I want to subtract and then keep the sign of the piece that's larger. So this, once again, this 13.2 has a larger absolute value than 10.4. So I know my answer here is going to be negative. So negative 2.8. Now let's do the check. So my original equation is w plus 13.2 equals 10.4. I think my w is worth negative 2.8. So I'm going to plug that in right there. So I have negative 2.8 plus 13.2 equals 10.4. Now, I have different signs here. Once again, if I have different signs, I'm going to subtract. So I'm going to subtract 13.2 minus 2.8. And I'm going to do a little bit of borrowing here. 12 minus 8 is 4. Bring the decimal straight down. 2 minus 2 is 0. Drop this 1 down. And there's more in the positive than in the negative here. And it looks like my check worked out fine. 10.4 equals 10.4. One last problem, x minus 5/6 equals negative 1/6. I'm going to scroll down a little bit, make myself some room. So this is x minus 5/6 equals negative 1/6. I'm just going to check and make sure I wrote that down correctly. Yeah, x minus 5/6 equals negative 1/6. All right, so my inverse of subtracting 5/6 is to add 5/6. So I'm going to add 5/6 on both sides. This cancels out. Bring my x straight down. Negative 1/6 plus 5/6 is 4/6. Negative 1 plus 5 is positive 4. And that can, of course, be reduced down to 2/3. So my final answer, I think, is x equals 2/3. Let's do the check here. So I'm going to write my original equation, which is x minus 5/6 equals negative 1/6. I'm going to plug in my value. And rather than plugging in 2/3, just to cut down on the work here a little bit, I know I need a common denominator if I'm going to subtract. So I'm going to plug in my original 4/6 that I came up with here. So I think my x is 4/6. So I have 4/6 minus 5/6. 4 take away 5. That's going to push me into the negatives. That's negative 1. My denominator is going to stay as a sixth. So negative 1/6 equals negative 1/6. I hope that helped.